Good morning, folks. I'm in a bad mood. Didn't sleep very good last night, but I have to tell you right up front, I'm in a bad mood. I'm reading a couple of books that I really like. Bible reading's going all right, but I'm kind of in a bad mood. I got a lot of little things I got to attend to, and it seems like every time I turn around, somebody's nickel and diming me to death, including T-Mobile. I don't know what's with these people. They think, well, they're just making money as best they can, but they don't realize how much they're alienating service. So let's talk about corporations. Now, I'm not an expert on corporations, but as my buddies and as I've heard, there are 4 different corporations or variants on the United States of America. And as I tell people, it's a giant shell game. So they can defraud you, defraud me, defraud us. And then I remember a few years back on an interview on YouTube, it was a broadcast on YouTube. One man asked the other man, how many corporations are there? The other man got it right. So, take a guess. How many corporations are there? Come on, come on. I'm going to rush on this one. There's only one. Yep, that's right. All other corporations are incorporated under that one corporation. So where would that corporation be? How would you know it? I know this is pretty obvious. If you listen to me at all, you probably already got the answer to this one. That would be Rome. Not Rome itself, but the little tiny nation state inside of it called the Vatican. Yeah, they own the earth and represent Jesus Christ. That's what they tell us. That's what they tell me. So that gives them the right to have dominion over everything because they're managing this plantation for Jesus Christ. Now, who is Jesus Christ? I don't know where I'm going with this, folks, so, I'm going to be surprised by it, too. Well, let's see. The letter J didn't exist until the Elizabethan era. That's when the letter J first appeared in the English language. So, the name Jesus didn't exist. The word Jew didn't exist either. And about that same time, we had the formation of a specialized branch of the Roman Catholic Church called the Jesuits. It begins with a J. What was the purpose, the mission statement of the Jesuits? It was to put forward the name of Jesus. Why did they have to do that? Why did they have to put forward the name of Jesus? Well, it's kind of like these 4 different corporations of the United States of America. They needed to deceive you. They needed to throw you off course. They needed to brainwash you. You see, in the United States of America, the Constitution wasn't for a corporation. There were no corporations in the United States of America at that time, except maybe one. And that's all it took. And that corporation was formed inadvertently, I believe. I want to give Ben more credit. I don't want to blame Ben Franklin too much for what we're going through, but I'm not so sure Ben Franklin knew what he was doing. So that's a question I have. If you can answer it, put it in the comments, man. I want to see this one. Did Ben Franklin knowingly or unknowingly start the Corporation of the United States of America? Now, forget about the title, the capitalizations, the spelling, and all that technical stuff. We know that corporation lay fallow. until the presidency of Abraham Lincoln. That's according to Anna von Ritz, lives in Big Lake, Alaska, another Alaskan. Problem is that Anna calls herself a judge, and in her credentials she tells us that she hung out with the Roman Catholic Church, with the Vatican, which is suspect. Sorry, Anna, it's suspect. Anna may have a point, she may be right, I just don't know. But I do know this. The sort of fraud that I believe was perpetrated on Ben Franklin, which was perpetrated on us, might have been induced by a honeypot. Yeah, we've had those going on for a while. Not just today, that's not a modern invention. Or it could have been just a presage to the frauds that are committed every day on our ICC, Interstate Commercial, no, what is it? I don't know what I'm talking about. Securities and Exchange Commission. Sorry. It's too early in the morning. There was a middle-aged woman a while back, and of course, that would be younger than me. And at the time she presented this, about maybe 10 years ago, she took us through a tour of not the Interstate Commercial Code, but the Securities and Exchange Commission. That's right. And she showed us on a chart, I think it was a chart that was posted on the internet, all of these transactions. And so she was really brilliant. I don't think she had a doctorate. I don't think she had a master's degree. I think she just was a common, ordinary housewife who was curious and who knew how to manage a household, which is more than what I can say for our Congress. They couldn't even manage a household. She showed us these deals that they made under one corporate number, one corporation. And the same person, or corporation, with that corporate number, and now having had the asset, made another deal. But the deal they made was under a different identity, under a different corporate number. In other words, they wore two hats. They entered the deal, got the asset by wearing one hat, and when they sold it, they wore another hat. I think what she was showing us was how all of these transactions on the Securities and Exchange Commission weren't secure. They were all fraudulently done. So that's a large part of what's happened to you and I. Today we have Social Security. Was first called Social Insurance. It was so illegal, so against the Constitution and the people of this nation, that they couldn't even do it to us unless they set up a series of frauds. And they didn't tell us about it. And they also didn't tell us the remedy to it. So I'm thinking on the edge of my seat right now, on the edge of my pants. I mean, I really don't know what I'm talking about. You might know what I'm talking about better than I do. But I'm not here just to teach you. I'm here to learn. I don't get many comments in the comment section. I'd love to be able to give assignments to my audience and say, hey, this is what I want to know. Go do it. I mean, I loved graduate school. And towards the end of graduate school, when I was I was sweating bricks and coasting, when I took breaks, all these other students would sit with me and approach me because they knew, especially the foreign students who were busting their asses wanting to get their advanced degrees. They knew they could sit with me, and they knew I would tell them how to do the dissertation, how to break it down, how to make it happen. Of course, I had the one friend from Africa, Zane Grey. Oh, man, I love Zane Grey. We had so many good debates right on the open campus, and other students would gather around while we talked, and we'd talk for 2 or 3 hours just standing out there at campus in San Diego. He was a wonderful man to debate with. It was really nice. Zane always dressed up collegiate style. He was a permanent college student. He was over here hiding out because if he went back home to Africa, they'd kill him. And so he was busy. He was busy changing majors and dissertations so he could keep his student visa so he could stay here. I don't know what kind of funding the man had behind him, but it must have been pretty good, because he was upset with me because I was telling him how to complete his degree. He didn't want to do it. I didn't realize that till my buddies from Thailand, our mutual friends, told me about it. But Zane was really smart. He spent a lot of time at that university. He went to the best lectures, the best teachers. He went to all of them, and he took his time there. I don't know how many years he spent at United States International University, which is now called Alliant International University. Before that was called Cal Western University. Folks, they've conquered us through a series of frauds. This has been very much an intellectual warfare. They rule by deception. Mystery Babylon. It's no mystery to me. It's probably not a mystery to you either. But the real fact is, you and I don't know not even half of the story. It's much bigger mystery than we ever could even imagine. They rule by mystery. They rule by deceit. They're in the background. My God, Woodrow Wilson said there is an organized effort that's in the background, that this conspiracy is so vast, none dare speak against it. That's what Woodrow Wilson said. It was more than a century ago. And by the way, that's where our government really went wrong. Woodrow Wilson really screwed us up. We put a communist in office, and he changed things up for us and put the screws to us. You know, I think if we established a law that this fellow, this vet, this Millwright, real jarhead kind of guy, real squarehead kind of guy, real accurate man in his thinking, in his business. I still don't understand his business very well, but I'll tell you this. His proposal to me was that he doesn't mind a death sentence, that like Trump was proposing, for any cop killers. He didn't mind that, provided that any police officer who lied, it was a death sentence. In other words, if a cop lied, he was put to death. And you know, initially I was abhorred by that. I'm thinking, oh, Laurel, come on. And then I got to thinking, well, we're dependent upon these guys and these girls for life or death. And I'm not impressed. I don't care how rigid or how authoritarian they want to lord it over me. They just don't understand the law very well. They think they know it, and they don't. Just like us. We think we know it, and we don't. The original law of the land is the 13th Amendment. You want to save our nation? You put the original 13th Amendment into play, and you wipe out all subsequent amendments. You not revolt, not rebel, but you revolution. You revolve to original self-rule. You go back to the roots our founders gave us. You kick out this corporate government or series of corporate governments and frauds, and you get rid of all the corporations. Our founders never would have allowed corporations. They knew about corporations, and they didn't want them here. And an American citizen back then was not allowed to do business with them. They couldn't do business with us. Life was pretty good. Today, that's all we have is corporate America. All of our governments are corporations. They aren't even organic. All of our governments are actually vacant. We're not occupying the seats. It's a woman in South Carolina, brilliant. She ran for Congress and didn't make it. She said we just merely need to populate the seats of the organic, real government and take this place back. Man, I love that. I love that. The problem is we don't know enough. And how did they take us over? Well, through those people that the 13th Amendment took care of. The 13th Amendment put those people in their place. We Americans didn't hire attorneys. We went into courts ourselves. We represented ourselves and we won. And the King of England was upset with his esquires and said, hey, how come you're not romping all over them in the courts? How come you're not kicking their asses in the courts? How come you guys aren't, ruling it like I said you're supposed to rule it? And the esquires responded, sir, we do exactly what you say. We take them to the courts, but they know the law better than we do. And the judge rules in their favor. They know the law better. And in case you're wondering what the number one selling category of books was in the colonies and in the early states, law books, the colonies, the several states were the digesters, the buyers of more law books than any other place in the world, more than even England, where we got those law books. So, we're negligent. Yeah, kind of nice how that goes away, but I've been leaving it there. We're negligent, folks, and we're ignorant. We don't know the law, and the esquires don't know it either. Because if they knew the law, they would be shaking in their boots, which is where we would want them to be. Shaking their boots, why? Well, they couldn't hold any office that allowed them to get payment in government at all. They couldn't hold elected office. They couldn't be getting a check from us. And they also were stripped of any and all citizenship in the several states. Wow. Why did we pass the 13th Amendment? Why was it necessary? It was called the War of 1812. That made the 13th Amendment necessary. The jackass attorneys got us into the War of 1812. So much for their honesty and ethics and uprightness. And as a result, we wanted to put them in their place. So we stripped them of any and all citizenship. They couldn't even hold a seat on the bench. We have to get rid of them. Now, please don't go saying Dr. Kent's advocating we kill all the attorneys. That was my ancestor who said that, by the way. Well, I don't think I'm a descendant of him. He was an offshoot of the Kents. He went by the alias Sir Francis Bacon. And when he wrote, he wrote under the pen name of Shakespeare. So the great irony of it was, he was the Queen's attorney. And here's the Queen's attorney in his play saying, first we kill all the attorneys or all the lawyers, whatever it is. It's a real famous line. So you need to know you haven't known the full irony of that. The world hasn't known the full irony of that for centuries. Now, most people didn't know it was the Queen's attorney. Most people could not know it was Sir Francis Bacon. Why? Because Sir Francis Bacon was the Queen's son. And she had an affair outside of marriage, which would have meant they would have beheaded her back then. So, Shakespeare, being fathered by a Kent, and his brother also was fathered by a Kent, and also born to the Queen Mother, who went down in history as not having a consort. There's more ironies to those lines. I'd need to go read again and read historical context in order to history to get it in context. But it was funnier than hell. It was. Sir Francis Bacon also wrote a couple of books. One was called The New Atlantis, and it was published. So Sir Francis Bacon was instrumental in planning the United States of America. And in case you're wondering where this comes from, it's from Dr. Elizabeth Aranzulla. Lectures given 1973-1974 at Gonzaga University in Florence, Italy. I credit the woman. She was brilliant. She was brilliant. She was teaching me about my family, and I have one question for her, and I know her name's no longer Dr. Aranzulla. She divorced her Italian husband once he got caught up with some serious fraud and theft. She got rid of him. So she's back to her maiden name and in England somewhere. She's probably still alive. I would guess that she's about 80 years of age right now if she's alive. And if you can locate Dr. Elizabeth Aranzulla, who worked at Gonzaga University in Florence, I'd love to be in touch with her. I have some questions still. I'm still a student. I'm still learning. You need to understand, it's not what you think it is. And Sir Francis Bacon bragged. He bragged he had every book in his library, in his personal library. Now imagine that. Libraries were more valuable than gold back then. Gold is dead. Ideas and books are alive. Who would be the one boy in the kingdom that would have every book in his library? Why, he would be the queen's son. So that's another indicator. We also know he confronted his queen mother about age 12 or 14. I think it was, I don't remember which it was. He demanded a private audience with the queen, and he got it. And he confronted her with the fact that he knew she was his mother. And she got angry with him. She got pissed off. She hit the ceiling, man. She had a cow, man. And she came down on him like a ton of bricks. She told her offspring, reared by another family, that he was going to Spain to become an attorney. It was her order. It wasn't her wishes. It wasn't a suggestion. It was her order. Furthermore, he was banned forever from ever approaching this throne again. The queen must have reneged on that one, because Sir Francis Bacon became the queen's attorney. Not only that, his little brother, her other offspring from Mr. Kent, knew that the queen was his mother, and for some reason, the little bastard decided he was going to go after his mother's throne. He was going to depose her. He was going to take the throne himself. That would have been interesting. Needless to say, he did not succeed. He was discovered. When he was discovered, he was charged. And Sir Francis Bacon, the Queen's attorney, was tasked with prosecuting him. Sir Francis Bacon got his brother executed. I believe it was beheaded. Dr. Aranzulla would probably know the answer to that question. I don't. So he got his brother executed. Now, this wasn't half-brother. This was full brother, by the way. They both had a Mr. Kent for the father, and Queen Elizabeth was their mother. She went down in history as not having had a consort. So you can understand why a little brother by a younger son would feel cheated and that he was entitled to that throne. Well, Sir Francis Bacon wrote another book, The New Atlantis II, Planning America. And he never published that book. That book was never made public. If you can find that book, and I asked my my brother's oldest daughter, my niece, who no longer talks with me. She's in Kansas. She works as a librarian. She's got quite a position. I believe she's an associate professor, and she's got tenure. I don't even know if they give tenure anymore these days, but she got a position with tenure. She earned a master's degree in library science. She wanted to be a psychologist, and oh my God, I couldn't let her do that to herself. I couldn't let her become a psychologist. Hell no. No money in it. You work your ass off, and it wasn't a very good profession. Still not a very good profession. That's why I'm giving psychology away. Anyway, she's in the back of the library somewhere. I tried to visit her. She was off on some seminary at the time, but that was the last time I tried to visit her. She's not reached out to me, so that's okay. Let her have it the way she wants. I was hoping that she would find the New Atlantis for me, and the New Atlantis too. I think the New Atlantis is on the internet. Sir Francis Bacon may have been the architect for the planning of America and a lot of the stuff we're going through today. You see, there was another architect back in our Civil War. Every time I try to think of him, my brain goes. This guy was a general, and I can picture him with all of his regalia on, in his uniform. And he's buried in Washington, D.C., in the Masonic Lodge, and I believe he's the only one buried there. And he wrote his protege, his successor, Mancini, Albert Pike, General Albert Pike, wrote his protege in Italy, Mancini, a letter. And in that letter, which I believe is on display in Great Britain, he outlined the three world wars to come. He wrote this during our Civil War, mind you. He wrote about the 3 world wars and the planning of those. You see, folks, there really is a conspiracy bigger than you can wrap your minds around. They really are out to get you and me and most of the world. And right now they're using the Bible as a playbook because they want to be God. And so they're going to render judgment upon us. They've already done it before. When the Babylonians under Nebuchadnezzar took down Jerusalem, Nebuchadnezzar's representatives spoke in perfect Hebrew so they all could understand. And the king begged them, don't speak in Hebrew. He wanted them to speak in their native tongue, which he understood, because he didn't want the people in Jerusalem understanding and hearing and understanding what was going on. But he told them in perfect Hebrew that their God Yahweh had sent Nebuchadnezzar to destroy them, to render God's judgment, Yahweh's judgment upon Jerusalem. He was right. And by the way, from what I can tell, the Babylonians may have sacked the temple, taken everything out of it, but I don't think the Babylonians were the ones who burned the temple. In the Apocryphal books I read, it was the Edomites who burned the temple. The guys at Mount Seir, the descendants of Esau, who became known as Edom, they burned the temple. And when it came to rebuilding the temple, they conspired to stop it. See, those are the boys we're dealing with today. Those are the badasses. Those are the bad guys. And their children are in power. And so you've got to look at the lineage. You got to look at the fathers, the parents of the current men that are in the news that you all know, hear about, read about every day. And look at who their grandparents were. You might be amazed. And then look at who their great-grandparents were. You may be surprised. This really is intergenerational warfare. This really is a problem in the family. And that problem started in the Garden of Eden. Now, I don't care what you say. You say it's the original sin. I don't think so. I think that's part of the delusion, part of your churchianity, part of this bullshit they preach from the pulpits. I don't think Adam and Eve committed the original sin. Bible doesn't say anything about original sin. Talks about the old hatred. Yeah. You want to know what the original sin is? According to Dr. Kent? Genesis. I believe it's verse 2. And if we look at the extra biblical books that should have been in the Bible, I believe they're going to tell us that 200 angels gathered on Mount Hermon. 200 fallen angels got together on Mount Hermon, and they had a conference. And they agreed on what they were going to do. And part of the agreement was once they left Mount Hermon, they weren't going to talk about it because they didn't want to get discovered. So they swore each other to secrecy because they didn't want their plan to be discovered. That was the original sin. And so the evil ones have you blaming each other. They put the great divide between men and women. So all of the Adams out there blame Eve, but usually the most important thing is Eve blames Adam because she's the one that really made the mistake. She's the one that was deceived. Adam, the man, was not deceived. Eve was deceived. Eve turned to evil. She turned to the dark side. Adam loved his wife so much he couldn't stand to live with her. Pastor Jerry Wicke thinks that Yahweh and Adam, father and son, had a talk, and that Yahweh offered his son Adam a new wife, and Adam declined that, saying he loved his wife Eve so much he couldn't bear to live without her. So Adam made a decision to go with her, to accept the mortality that Eve had brought on herself. He didn't want to leave her. And Pastor Wicke said to me, he believed that when Yahweh heard this from his son Adam, he said, very well then, I'll make a way for you. I'll make a way back. Yahshua called it the way. The disciples called it the way. And Yahweh warned his son Adam, it's going to be tough. This is going to be a rough one, but I'll make a way back for you. That's why everything was set up, so that we could get back into good graces. You see, you and I, we weren't designed to operate outside of relationship with Yahweh. We were designed to be in perpetual relationship with Yahweh. Not separated, not isolated. But yet here we are, we walk around looking for God, looking for Yahweh. Well, folks, the answer to that is in the Bible. And of course, that would be my Bible and no other Bible, right? Well, my Bible is the best Bible in the world available today. We have restored the proper name of Yahweh. We have restored the Tetragrammaton into its proper place in the Scriptures where it belonged. That was removed by Ptolemy II when he was producing the Septuagint. When he was producing a Greek Bible, he removed that from the Hebrew Aramaic language that he was translating from. Did he wittingly do it? I suspect so. Was he a good guy or a bad guy? I mean, after all, he was producing the Bible. So did King James, by the way. King James produced the King James Bible. After he had commissioned 2 other major works on witchcraft and sorcery. Yeah, King James was into that shit. He was not a nice man. I don't think Ptolemy II was a nice man. That's just my opinion. I mean, I talk about that with the publisher. I talk about that with other brothers who've been reading the Bible for a while. We haven't come up with an answer to that. But if you got an answer to that, I want an answer. Was Ptolemy II a bad guy? Might he have been an Edomite? Or one of the Canaanites? Or a descendant of Amalek? I don't know. We don't know. It's a really good question. Been pulling my hair out, what's little left of it, to see if I could answer that one. We do know this. The Greek written Bible was purposeful. It had to be translated into Greek. Why? Because the vast majority of the Israelites, millions by the way, yeah, millions. I'd take a guess. You want to know how many millions? Maybe 50 million, 40 million. I would say definitely 30 million by the time they left the Assyrian captivity. I'm going to guess 10 or 12 million when they went in. I don't really know. My numbers could be off. If you got better numbers, please educate Dr. Kent. Please correct Dr. Kent. I embrace correction. I love correction. Don't get too carried away with it now, but you know, oh man, my father passed away and I was talking to a buddy of mine. This is a short story. And I told him I missed my dad. I really missed my dad. I missed him so much. I wish he would just, I'd be happy. I'd be happy just to have him chew my ass out one more time. I know it's kind of counterproductive, right? Well, no sooner did I say that to my buddy than my father shows up in my dreams. Oh, my Lord. And he was strong. He was in his prime. He was like maybe 50 years of age. He lived to 91. And in my dream, he was relentless. He kicked my ass. Now, I don't mind that. I really don't. But I'm not asking for it again. Believe me, he did a thorough job. He had me convinced that I don't want that again. But I can't remember what I'd done wrong. I can't remember what the lesson was. It was over the top, too. He'd take things a little bit too far, I think. Anyway, there's an adage, and I love it. Lose, but don't lose the lesson. Must be the motto of my life, because I'm always losing. But I'm doing my best to get the lesson. So I've had some recent losses, and I'm doing my best to get the lesson. A lot of money was taken from me. My family inheritance was robbed from me. It's a very complicated story. I don't want to talk about it. We have an agreement to settle. At least another step is taken in that path, a long path. I need to do some fundraising. I know I don't usually beg for money. My driving motivation in my life was to be able to earn my own way, not be dependent, to be able to support myself. And so as I tell you once again, I really don't want you giving me money. I want you buying my Bible. I want to give you more value than you give me. So if you could order a case of Bibles, yes, I'm going to get a little commission off that. I'd appreciate that. And you can resell these Bibles. They're hard to find. They really are. But you can probably double the price. Well, you can add what you want to it. On the other hand, you can gift people. You can bless people with these. Frankly, I'd rather you sell them because I want people to value them. And if they don't pay for them, they're not going to value them. It's like going into therapy and giving your time away. People don't value it because it was freely given, so it doesn't mean anything to them. So I like to collect full fare so that they actually pay attention and do something. Anyway, I'm no longer working as a psychologist. My buddy, who's been nagging me for years now to use PayPal, told me last night how simple it is to make that account work for me. So hopefully today and before the end of this week, the PayPal account will be up and I will publish that. I'm not asking for donations. Gifts, I accept. That's all I want you to do. Gifts, that way it's a gift. We avoid the fees that happen in that transfer, for one. And remember, this whole thing we're living in is a beast system. I don't want to support it too much. How about you? So what I want you to do is help me with that. I also have some hardware that I need to transfer. I'm in a small motorhome. I found a bigger one that I'd like to get. The man wants quite a bit of money for it. I'm in the middle of trying to find out if it's a good investment or not and if it'll work. And I'm going for the cheapest, most practical thing I can do. At least I think it is. I hope and pray it is. And I have to do my homework on this because if I buy a diesel pusher and anything really goes wrong with it, I could end up really homeless, not just on the streets. This rig is nice. It's 28 feet long, gas powered, but I'm just not able to live as organized and function as well as I would like. And I can't haul much with this rig. You know, it's pretty lightweight. It has a limited carrying capacity, so I'd like to get the diesel pusher. I have all kinds of excuses and rationalizations for it. And now is probably the time to get it so I can actually get benefit of it. I don't think I'm going to be able to stay on the road forever. My dad was actually able to stay on the road till he was 86. My mom was 84. That was not a good year, that last year for them. So I'd like to stop about 80. So I would appreciate it if you're looking for armaments for firearms. I got some fine ones that I don't need, and I'd like to sell them for fair market value, and I want to convert them. I've got some ammunition I commissioned, but I don't have it with me. It's pretty valuable. It's collector's stuff, so I want to get that and put it out on the market too. I've always said a man needs about 3 times the money that he puts into a diesel pusher. You need the money to buy it with, that's 1/3. You need to be able to fix it up so it really works and is livable the way you want it, so it's safe on the road. Ideally, you'd have 1/3 there. And then you need 1/3 in reserve in case something real big breaks down and you got to do something major, like an engine, which could run $30,000 pretty easily. Well, the money's becoming worthless, folks. It's not that things are going up in price. It's the money is becoming worthless. We are in the Weimar Republic 2.0. They're doing the same thing to us they did to the Berliners. And of course, they revered that man that came and saved them in the flesh. I'm not so sure that's an accurate statement. I think the women revered him because he monetized having children. And I don't want to speak too highly of him because we're not allowed to speak about him. And if I start praising him, they'll take this channel down too. Anyway, upon the birth of the first child, 1/4 of the mortgage was forgiven. Upon the birth of the second child, another fourth, 25%, a full half of the original mortgage was wiped out. And upon the birth of the third child, another 25%. And upon the birth of the fourth child, the state paid off that mortgage for them. That is an economic stimulus program. The most natural economic stimulus program in the world is having children. And the evil ones have been after us and our children. We peaked in terms of our percentage of the Earth's population in 1933 at approximately 30% of the world's population. And today, we're down to 5%. A lot of that is through miscegenation. That's the war technique that they waged against northern Israel and created Samaria. They brought in incompatible peoples to purposely screw things up and to weaken that society so they'd never rise again. The same thing is happening, you know where. It's the same lesson. You read the Bible, folks, you learn these principles and you understand what's best for us, what's best for you. Do subscribe to my channel. Do leave comments. Share it on social media. I got a whopping 10 subscribers. So when I say the channel is growing, well, I wanted to say it was really taking off. Well, at the time it went from 2 to 10. So that's quite an increase right there. I'll take it. I want 1 million subscribers. Actually, what I want to do is I want to sell 1 million Bibles just to start with. I want to turn this into a nation of Bible readers. And then once you have that going on, then you can become the lawmakers, the lawgivers, and study law. Because the Bible is a history of the law. Yes, all of the laws of Western civilization are founded on the Bible. As a matter of fact, Western civilization is founded upon the Bible. And our enemies are out there in public talking about destroying Western civilization and how they're mandated because they're projecting on us that we are Amalek. I think they've got Amalek. I think they got Amalek in them. I don't think we're Amalek. I'm looking into it, folks. I don't have all the answers. One of the big questions is out there is, did Goliath and his brothers, did they come through Amalek? We just don't know. And in case you're wondering, all this royalty in England and Europe, they all brag that they came from the same man. He too was giant seed. Vlad the Impaler. Vladimir the Impaler. I've been to his castle. The bed was huge. He was a big dude. I'm just going to take a guess. He was somewhere between 9 and 14 feet tall. Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to like my videos. I do want your help. If you want to gift me, great. I figure that if I have another $2,000 a month coming in, I can afford to travel and afford this humble lifestyle on the road that I have in a diesel pusher. The darn things cost, they used to cost only $500 a month on average to maintain. The way inflation is going, I'm sure it's past $600 a month now, maybe $700. So, and I'm going to burn my money. Yeah, when you buy fuel, you pay money. And when you drive, you burn fuel. So I will be burning my money. I figure I could consume pretty easily $1,000 a month in fuel. More than that, actually. I left this summer, beginning of June, and here it is, almost the end of July. I've already done 4,000 miles. And I think I've done my average calculations, just, without paper pencil. I've been exercising my mind more, try to get my mathematic abilities back, but I'll never get the calculus or maybe the advanced stats back. That's more useful, actually. But I figure that I've been spending an average of 60 cents a mile on fuel this summer, which you may think is just awful bad. But last summer I was spending $1 a mile for fuel, and I drove all the way across the country. Last summer I drove, 6,000 miles. And right now I'm at 4,000 miles. And I had planned on just doing 4,000, and I got to do 2,000 miles just to get to my winter grounds. But to get this diesel pusher, I got to do 4,300 or 4,600 miles more. Yahweh is an amazing Father in heaven, amazing Creator. Call upon His name. Get my Bibles, learn His name. My Bible's the most accurate Bible. The King James Bible was brought to you by Sir Francis Bacon. He oversaw the project for his king and relative, King James. Was Sir Francis Bacon a nice guy? I don't think so. We know William Shakespeare was murdered. Ben Jonson was heard at a bar bragging that he had put arsenic in the old salt's beer. William Shakespeare was an illiterate man. There are only 4 examples of his handwriting in existence, and one of them wasn't even a well-formed X. He was used as a front man. He was a horse handler on the Kent estate. And he was murdered, I think, to cover up the fact that he had not written those plays. Ben Jonson was the number 2 playwright. He really should have been number 1 in many ways. But then again, it would have been nice if Sir Francis Bacon, if the Queen had married properly, and his last name was Kent properly. Who knows what that would have brought us? I'm privileged to bring you the latest and greatest version of the Bible of the world. My ancestor brought you a Bible quite a while back. That was the King James Bible. It does have the Spirit in it. However, the Bible I bring you has got the proper names of Yeshua and Yahweh. And it's more accurate. The words that are translated are more accurate, and you will find that you make fewer wrong assumptions by reading it. We do that. We look at it, we try to interpret it, we assume things. And of course, you can prove one thing one day from the Bible, as Daniel Webster said in his life, and you can go back to Congress and prove it the other way in the Bible. Yes, you can do that. It's an amazing book, amazing collection of books. It's an amazing library. Well, folks, I have some other projects in mind. I might have to do a lot of reading and writing. I'd really like to have a better home study than 28 feet. 41 feet sounds pretty good to me. I do everything on one tiny little desk here. It's just big enough to hold maybe 2 laptop computers. So my junk piles up on it and I get disorganized too easily. I'd like to have a bigger rig so I can have a second dog. My dog, unfortunately, does not protect herself. She wants to play. She hasn't found a dog yet she's not willing to submit to, and my dog trainer was right. I shouldn't have taken her to the bark park. She was ruined very quickly one day. So I want to get a big male. And I want to get one of her puppies, and I'm going to leave him on the rough side. And hopefully he'll protect his mama because she won't defend herself. My God, a couple of chihuahuas chased her under my motorhome. She's a Belgian Malinois, 60 pounds. What the heck is wrong with her? Doesn't she know? One snap of those jaws and they're gone. Not that I want her to do that, but I at least want her to not be afraid and run. I think maybe if she had a son who was protecting her, it would be a good thing. And maybe she'd learn from the son that she can do it too. And maybe that would fix the problem I've caused with my dog. At least I know that she's safe in any campground because she's not going to go after any dog. I need your help. I want your help. Get this channel going, please. I've got some marketing ideas. I've been looking for people who can help me with t-shirts and hats. I've got to start selling something besides just the Bible. It's not selling very well. I've actually probably gotten more money from the donations than I have off Bible sales. That's pretty bad. And here I am, trying to be proud. Okay, pride comes before a fall. If you pray for me, pray to Yahweh. My family still has major issues going. It will not be too long before I will be the last of the Kents, the last of this line. We brought you a lot of stuff besides just the Bibles. I want to tell you about that. We need to rescue America. We need to restore a republic. You're not going to do it without Yahweh, Creator Father, and without reading your Bibles. May Yahweh bless you today. May you bless Yahweh. The Word, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, was God. You want to access the mind of God? Read the Bible. You want to program yourself up? Read the Bible. Good stuff. Read the Bible. You want the Holy Spirit? You want to know right from wrong? You want to have a very ability to make fine discriminations in thought and judgment? Read the Bible. It's not just a history book. It's a law history book. You need to read it. It'll tell you what to do. It will help you. It will program your ass up from here to kingdom come. It will make it happen for you. And it's not easy. You got to read it. You got to press in. As David said, I meditate upon your law night and day. Folks, you can make a difference. You can make a night and day difference in this world. You can help save America. The earth groans for her saviors. Let's save some lives. Let's do that together. Yahweh bless.